One of the most interesting individual little stories from these early days of the 2016 presidential campaign happened yesterday. Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders spoke at the private Christian college, Liberty University. This is the traditionally far right religious school. It's in Lynchburg, Virginia. It was founded by the extremist televangelist and pastor Jerry Falwell. This is a perfect speaking gig for candidates like Rick Santorum or Ben Carson, for Ted Cruz. Remember, everybody, all the student body being forced to go to the mandatory rally for Ted Cruz. Not really a great fit for the more moderate Republicans, and really not a good fit, you would think, for one of the most progressive candidates in a long time, Bernie Sanders. But Bernie Sanders spoke there yesterday. He was asked a question about protecting unborn children, and the entire exchange is absolutely endlessly fascinating, Lewis. The question was about protecting the unborn. Two things to pay attention to. Number one, pay attention to the raucous standing ovation and applause for the anti-abortion, anti-choice language that was used by David Nasser, the house pastor or whatever he's called at Liberty University, in framing the question. But then, interestingly, pay attention to the reaction to Bernie Sanders' answer to the question. Let's look.
Senator Sanders, you've talked in your campaign about how it is immoral to protect the billionaire class at the expense of our most vulnerable in society, obviously children. You just mentioned that even in your talk with us earlier. A majority of Christians would agree with you, but here's the question. A majority of Christians would agree with you, but would also go further and say that children in the womb need our protection even more. How do you reconcile So the question, sir, is obviously you can see this is what they want to ask. Well, this is what's on there. How do you reconcile the two? And again, I know that you have a different view. I know that you, sir, and I don't have to be eye to eye on it, but I sense a real sincerity in you in wanting to see our children protected. Can you see, sir, how we see the child in the womb as the most vulnerable that needs protection?
I do understand.
Yes, sir.
But I do also understand, I understand this is an area where we disagree. I do understand and I do believe that it is improper for the United States government or state government to tell every woman in this country the very painful and difficult choice that she has to make on that issue. And I honestly don't want to be too provocative here, but very often conservatives say, you know, get the government out of my life. I don't want the government telling me what to do. But on this very sensitive issue, of which this nation is divided, right. A lot of people agree with you, a lot of people agree with me. But my view is, I respect absolutely a family that says, no, we are not going to have an abortion. I understand that, I respect that. But I would hope that other people respect the very painful and difficult choice that many women feel they have to make and don't want the government telling them what they have to do.
This clip really shows me what is refreshing about Bernie Sanders. There's nothing that feels crafted or concocted about his answer. It's just his honest view. It should and does appeal to at least some people on both sides. And there was more applause than I would have anticipated for Bernie Sanders speaking at Liberty University.
There was. He wasn't afraid to say that we differ on this issue. And I wonder how many people were actually enlightened when he started bringing up, things about the Republican budget and its lack of morality. But there did seem to be a fair amount of applause even for that. And so, I'm hoping that he has a bunch of supporters in that crowd.
Even the politicians that would be more on the side of the Liberty University crowd, when they're asked questions, they sort of hem and haw and waffle and speak in generalities and talking points. Bernie Sanders stands by his convictions. He explains why these are his convictions. These are the exact same things he says in front of liberal audiences, and he got some cheers for it. This was not ever going to be his crowd, but he gives the same message that he gives to a liberal crowd, and it does to some degree resonate. And this is just further confirmation that the Bernie policies are not fringe extremist ideas. These are the popular mainstream policies. It's just that they get all wrapped up in names like communism and socialism and blah, blah, blah. And that is just a distraction, because these are pretty reasonable, middle of the road ideas that Bernie Sanders is presenting.
And if people need to keep sharing videos of Bernie Sanders and the Bernie Sanders meme quotes, because that's really how you get this message across. I mean, Dave, imagine if we didn't have social media right now. What would Bernie's name recognition look like without all of that?
Yeah, it'd be even lower than it currently is. And we'll continue to track where that goes. Fascinating. Bernie slaying at Liberty University. Not a headline we would have anticipated. Let's take a quick break. So much to get to on today's show.